106 FM רדיו הר הצופים
106 FM, רדיו הר הצופים, כל ישראל מהאוניברסיטה העברית. אתם על ג'קל והייד בתוכנית מיוחדת של דילינגר אסקייפ פלן. אנחנו נראיין 3 מחברי הלהקה, נדבר איתם על האלבום החדש ונעשה לכם כיף חיים. אז יאללה, בואו נתחיל. הרעיון הראשון הוא עם ליאם.
So, we're speaking with Liam, and our first question is refers to your way of life, your vegan way of life. What's your philosophy behind it?
It's weird. I didn't really get into it the way a lot of people do. It wasn't like this, like I'm an Earth Crisis fan, or
Right.
I don't know. I feel like so many people kind of came to it through that, and I kind of came through it through like like a weird trip on mushrooms. And I was like, oh, you know what? This is not right. I'm gonna change my life. So I just kind of decided, and I mean it's definitely about an animal rights thing, but it's to me it's more about like a health thing, or just kind of like a putting the rest of your life in focus. It's it helps you practice discipline.
And you can still eat mushrooms.
Yeah. And I don't know, it's kind of helped me, with music, I guess, like the kind of diligence that I take to that, I bring into, my practice schedule on the instrument, and, like other things like yoga, it's kind of like, it brings all these other things together for me. I think the other, like, sort of sideline funny thing would be like, if, for example, we're in Tokyo, and everybody else is hungry, and it's like, oh, okay, well, there's a McDonald's, and it's like a block away from the hotel. I have to kind of go hike for something and go explore. And sometimes it's not always that fun, sometimes it's a little frustrating. But I think for all the time I spend, like, actually walking through cities and actually meeting people and being like, hey, where's the closest this,
Right.
And, so I don't know. It's kind of just become just a kind of funny part of my lifestyle. It's not so much like a cerebral, like, gotta save the animals, although that is part of it.
Yeah.
Okay. The second question, Liam, concerns to the way that you joined Dillinger Escape Plan. How did that came to be?
Well, originally the original bass player Adam got in a car accident and was paralyzed from the armpits down, and they had somebody filling in for about a year. And during that year, I was working on the material and trying to finish my 3rd year of school just to kind of make a clean break. And they called me. I'd maybe learned like 6 songs, or they'd shown me 6 songs.
Right.
And they called me one day from tour, like, hey, how's it going? And I was like, it's going, it's going well. I'm working on these songs. They're like, oh, okay, well, do you want to come up to New York and play tomorrow? I was like, okay. So, it was actually Valentine's Day, and I got my girlfriend at the time to kind of put plans on hold and drive me up to New York, and that was kind of like my first interview. And
Cool.
they just
so
kind of threw me on.
you guys were friends before the
Excuse me?
You guys were friends before you collaborated?
Not exactly. I'd met them They were looking for a bass player, and they asked my friend Jim if he'd be interested in playing. And he's a pretty well-rounded musician, but was just kind of like, I just can't really imagine myself playing bass live in a band like this. So he was like, I can't do it, but I know somebody who can. So they called me, or eventually I just kind of introduced myself to them the next time they played in Philadelphia. They were like, oh, okay, right on. And, we just started talking right then.
Excellent. So you were a fan of the band, obviously.
Yeah, I was definitely a fan of the band. I was pretty familiar with it when Jim had brought it up to me, like, hey, they're looking for a bass player. I was like, there's no way. Like, I'm not ready for that.
Right.
And then, lo and behold, here I am.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
On the new album, Ironworks, there was another collaboration with the first singer, right? Dimitri Minikakis?
Yeah.
On Fix Your Face. How was that writing process?
I mean, it was pretty simple. I hate to say it was almost an afterthought, but
okay.
We had just kind of considered like, hey, Dimitri should do some backups somewhere, and that was the song where it was like, hey, you know what? The ending of this song seems fitting. Greg and I were still in California finishing up, our parts of the record, and Ben had gone home and was hanging out with Dimitri and was just like, hey, set up a mic. And that was pretty much it. It was definitely probably a lot more casual than most people think. It's just like, hey, okay, here's Greg's lyrics, sing along.
That's great.
And then Ben just, emailed some wave files, and Steve mixed them in.
And there was another collaboration, right, with
Mastodon?
with
Brent from
Hines.
Mastodon.
Right.
And that was almost equally as casual. He was, we had suggested to him, or through some conversation that one of us probably had over the past couple months with him, like, hey, maybe it'd be cool to come in and do some vocals. And next thing you know, we get a phone call like, hey, I'm coming to L.A. And like, hey, I'm, a couple blocks away, or whatever. And we were still kind of working on the construction of that song. Greg hadn't really done any vocal phrasings for it, so we just kind of let him hear it and say, like, hey, how about this part? He was like, okay. So he was really the first to lay down any vocals, and on that song at least, and we just kind of built around it.
Okay, so it wasn't completely finished by that point.
Most of the drums and the guitars had been laid down.
Okay.
But Greg and I hadn't touched it yet.
All right. I think there's a lot of diversity on Ironworks, which you continued as well from Miss Machine. It's especially on Milk Lizard, which personally that's Oded and mine's favorite track off the new album.
Yeah, it's awesome.
That's cool.
It involves trumpets and all kinds of things that it seems a bit difficult to perform live. Do you have a trumpet player and all that?
No, we don't have. I don't really know how that's going to work. We'll probably have, there's certain songs, that we start. I guess after Miss Machine, after Irony, we really started using more like samples, for like When Good Dogs Do Bad Things or Sunshine the Werewolf. Some of those middle sections that we had written using, computer programs and everything. It was like, okay, we should just use a sampler. Everybody else is doing it. Who cares?
Right.
So it'll probably be something like that. We'll probably leave, some of the horns, maybe just some of like the little synthy stuff. I'm not 100% sure how we're going to do that yet, or if it's even. I'm pretty sure that we have the samples, and if it's in there, I don't even listen for the horns anymore. So, I just kind of play my thing.
Okay, so speaking of irony, how was it like to work with a legend like Mike Patton, and how did it come about? How did you get that guy?
Well, it came about. We were looking. We had like 2 or 3 songs that we had written while Dimitri was still, in the band and sort of phasing out.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were talking to Mike Patton about, whether Ipecac would consider releasing an EP of our material, or just kind of just saying hi and feeling him out. And, he just kind of took the bait in a sense. He was like, hey, if you ever need anybody to sing on it. So, of course, we were like, hey, well, get cracking.
Well, obviously it got you a lot of publicity, this EP.
Yeah, tons of it. And, and then it was just kind of like we recorded our tracks, and then he came to Jersey maybe a couple months later, laid down his stuff, and at first it's always kind of like, hey, Mr. Patton, and then by the end, a couple hours later, you're like, hey, Mike, what's up? And ever since it's kind of been, pretty, I don't know, normal friendship.
That's cool. So you were always a Mike Patton fan?
Yeah, definitely. Faith No More was always a pretty big influence. When we had performed Malpractice with him in San Francisco one time, and at the end of that he said something like, where were you guys 10 years ago when I was playing with those clowns? And it was like crushing. I love Faith No More, man, and I know that you've got your issues with those guys.
Yeah.
And it was still an honor nonetheless, but it was definitely kind of awkward.
Right.
There isn't a lot of love in that band.
Sorry, a lot of what?
A lot of love in that band.
Oh yeah, totally.
what other influences would you consider from your musical past, or other current, musicians that you respect?
I guess from like a bass player point of view, guys like Jaco Pastorius or Cliff Burton or Dave Ellefson or some of the bigger name guys. Recently people have been asking me this question a lot, and I keep wanting to say like chainsaws, stab scenes in horror movies. Because at times, I feel like in 82588 there's like this.
Right,
this
tribute to
section that's just like gack, 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 and all I'm thinking about when I'm playing it is just like stabbing somebody. Or like, people have been like, man, your bass tone just sounds like a chainsaw, and I'm like, thank you, that's exactly what I was going for, So, I don't know. I think my influences are pretty much like anybody else's. I don't really think that what influences music is always music.
Right.
I feel like I get just as much out of like a yoga class or like, a good conversation or a fight with a girlfriend as I do sitting down and practicing sometimes. So it's kind of a Zen answer, but
you're a vegan with a chainsaw.
A vegan, yes.
What about the choice of cover songs that you've done? Come to Daddy by FX Twin, Wish, Nine Inch Nails, Angel, Massive Attack, up to Like I Love You by Justin Timberlake. It's kind of a wide variety of musical styles. Do you guys listen to everything basically, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think we really do. Similar to the last answer, I just kind of feel like everything, is kind of an influence, and like there's something for every moment in your life. I don't always think that, I don't think it's necessarily healthy to listen to Dillinger, 6 hours a day.
Right.
And I definitely, there's really no way to branch out. It's kind of like if you're just kind of listening to every, just heavy music or whatever, your output is going to be relatively bland. You're kind of creating in a vacuum.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I definitely think that, the covers, it's just kind of, part of it's just like, fun for us to kind of loosen up and just kind of be a band. We don't necessarily feel like we have to make, new Dillinger material all the time. It's like, well, let's just learn a cover for shits and giggles,
Right.
And sometimes it's like, I want to learn a little bit about it. Obviously, if you put yourself in that musician's head, like doing a Soundgarden cover, I'm like, okay, I got to be, it's almost like method acting. You got to be like, I'm Ben Shepherd for the next couple hours. Let me see what he was thinking when he was playing this stuff. Same with, the Nine Inch Nails stuff. It's like, what goes into these songs, really? You kind of like them, but you don't really know why until you get in there and like craft around and realize like, oh, that's actually kind of clever when you learn how to play it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it doesn't sound all that clever, but when you're physically playing it, all of a sudden it becomes a lot more interesting. We've got some other cover ideas. We've got obviously a laundry list of songs that we would love to do that we'll probably never get around to doing.
Anything that you might be recording in the future, or?
Yeah, I mean, once we start practicing them, I have a feeling that we don't really have a whole lot of time for like uselessness, or kind of like, there's never like a B-side Dillinger song that doesn't make it on the record.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we use pretty much everything that we write. So I have a feeling that if we were ever to really take the time and work a cover up, to where it should be, chances are we would record it sooner or later.
Mm-hmm.
You know, or at least like release some kind of like good live recording of it.
This is the first day of my last days. Build it up, now take it apart. Climbed up real high, now fall down real far. No need for me to stay. The last thing left, well, I just threw it away. Put my faith in God and my trust in you. Now there's nothing more fucked up I could do. Wish there was something real, wish there was something true. Wish there was something real in this world full of you. I'm the one without a soul, I'm the one with this big fucking no new tale to tell, 26 years, on my way to hell. Gotta listen to your big time, hard line, bad luck, fist fuck. You think you're having all the fun, you know me, I hate everyone. Wish there was something real, wish there was something true. Wish there was something real in this world full of you. Wish there was something real, wish there was something true. Wish there was something real in this world full of you. Wish there was something real, wish there was something true. Wish there was something real in this world full of you. This world full of you. This world full of you. This world full of you.
Are you planning on releasing a live record in the future?
I
A complete
don't
live
know.
record, or
I mean, unfortunately, I feel like when bands release live records, it's kind of like to fulfill contractual obligations,
okay.
you know?
Well, a live DVD would definitely, you know, be.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that's possible too. You know, I can see a lot of people being like, hey, you know, you guys are one of my favorite live bands. Put out a live DVD. But I don't really think that putting out a live DVD gets, you know, really gives you the full impression of what's going on.
Right,
You know, you're really only dealing with 1 cent or like 1 cent. It's like, you know, you don't have the smell of the show. You don't have like the dude bumping into you. You don't have like the sweat. You don't have your ears hurting, you know.
Right.
You don't have any sort of like uncomfortableness. You can sit there on your couch and watch it. And I just kind of don't feel like that's, not to say that we won't release a DVD, but it's not my priority.
You don't have
You know?
Greg stepping on your head. Like,
Yeah, exactly. There's no like,
we
you
saw
know,
that on
all-
YouTube. It's just
all
awesome.
the interactivity is gone.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We saw that Virgin Megastore
Performance,
show
yeah.
on
The
YouTube.
The infamous
Yeah.
show.
The head walk.
Fucked up.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Do you have any other, interesting touring stories that you'd be interested in sharing with us? Something awkward or weird or just, I don't know, striking that happened recently?
Romantic.
Romantic, yeah, sure.
I'm trying to think of something. And there's always something that comes up, but it's hard to single anything out right now.
Do you have any favorite bands that you tour with?
Favorite bands?
You tour with Meshuggah quite a lot, right?
Yeah.
The Meshuggah thing is a funny thing. They've kind of ruined our relationship, at least for the time being, with pulling out of the US or the European tour.
Okay.
Man, I'm trying to think of good stories. I mean, there were so many like little stories, like with Greg and I driving across country,
Right.
to get the record done. That was definitely sort of amusing.
There were a few things that you uploaded, I remember.
Yeah, the YouTube clip.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I just found out yesterday that there's a guy named Alex Roy who just broke the record for driving cross country. He did it in like 30 hours.
Okay.
And that's pretty absurd. I think they call it the Cannonball Run. So Greg and I were joking around yesterday about how, I'm glad I didn't see that before we left. He probably would have gotten pretty ambitious about it. Oh man, there's so many almost private, or not private, but just like inside jokish stories that it would just take me so long to set up the,
All right.
Okay.
the depth of hilarity.
Sure. What about the new drummer, Gil Sharon? How did you find him from Stolen? I mean, did you hear about him from Stolen Babies, and then
There was have you ever heard of the band Poison the Well?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, the drummer Chris is friends with us, and he saw Gil play numerous times and was like, "This is the dude."
Yeah.
You guys got to get in touch with this guy. This guy's better than Chris. You guys, blah blah blah. So we just sent him a MySpace message, and that was the end of it. He started writing back immediately, and he started learning the stuff pretty fast, and just kind of putting the phone on speakerphone and sitting at his drums and playing it. And we were like, "Oh, sounds like he's gonna get it."
Yeah, he's amazing.
Yeah, we keep me and him keep joking around about making a joke B-sides record called Irie Works. So everybody keeps talking about how he's a reggae drummer.
Yeah.
So we're gonna make like a reggae version of it.
It should be interesting.
Yeah, it'll probably never happen, but
yeah, the reggae covers is one thing you didn't do yet. So
yeah, we've never done any good reggae covers, have we?
Yeah.
I still want to do like Thriller or something like that.
All right.
I don't know.
It'll be like-
Well, we'd like to thank you for this great opportunity. And
Hey, thank you very much. This
Before
is,
we finish, we
pretty
just
cool.
Oh.
My grandmother was real proud of me when I said somebody was calling from Israel.
So our job is done.
Yeah.
Thanks.
We'd really like to have you sometime in Israel. I'm sure
we-
you'll have a great audience.
Yeah, we would love to pull it off. I don't know if you've actually talked to our booking agent, or when you talk to Ben, bring it up more. We've always kind of said like, oh man, let's go to Israel.
That'll be awesome.
Yeah,
It should be fantastic.
Well-
There's a great hardcore scene in here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I hear. I mean, everybody tells anybody who's been over there or just knows people over there are like, man, it's awesome over there. I don't know what you guys are waiting for. So
Okay.
So come on.
we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bring it
Talk to
on.
Ben. Well, thanks a lot, man. Hope the rest of the interviews go well.
Thanks
Thanks
a lot,
you.
and have a great weekend, Liam.
Okay, you too.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
See you.
So
אתם על 106 FM, תוכנית מיוחדת על דילינג'ר אסקייפ פלן. ראיינו עכשיו את ליאם, ועכשיו נעבור לסולן הלהקה, גרג. בואו נלך על זה.
You're about to embark on an upcoming tour, right?
Yeah, we leave in about 2 weeks. You know, again, there was a couple setbacks. You know, Ben broke his foot. We were actually supposed to be in Europe right now, but you know, Ben broke his foot a couple months ago. But it's okay. You know, we leave in 2 weeks and we do the U.S. and then we have another U.S. tour in January, and then we come to Europe in February. And unfortunately, we're not going to get to Israel. But me and Ben have already talked about coming to Tel Aviv because our friend Aaron plays in Nine Inch Nails, and they were in Tel Aviv earlier this year, and he keeps telling us that we have to go. So we're going to try to go and hopefully sometime in the middle of next year and make maybe like a couple days out of it. Play one day and then have like a couple days off after that, so we can actually go
travel a bit, right?
See something. Yeah.
That's fantastic. We're really looking forward to having you here.
What's that?
We're really looking forward to having you here if you're coming
next
year.
Yeah, man. It's one of the places it's one of the few. Israel and South America are pretty much the only places that we haven't been to that we really, really want to go. So it'll be exciting for us.
Okay. That's fantastic. More than fantastic. Let me ask you another question about going back in time, about how you joined Dillinger Escape Plan.
Okay.
Would you care to tell the story? How did this happen?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I was already a fan of theirs. I had heard Under the Running Board and Calculating Infinity, and I saw them for Mr. Bungle, and I guess it was around maybe I would say like April or May. I think it was probably like May. I think it was like May of 2001. I went to see Candiria play, and I was at the Candiria show, and I ran into a friend of mine that I hadn't seen in like a couple of years, and he was asking me what I'd been listening to lately, and I told him that I was, asked him if he had ever heard of Escape Plan.
Yeah.
He was like, yeah, but they just parted ways with the singer, and I was just like, oh man, that's a shame. They're probably going to break up now. I figured they were going to break up.
Right.
And he was like, no, they're actually auditioning, new singers. And I had been playing, music since I was 9 years old. I was singing in like, in local like band, like aggressive bands, whether it be hardcore, punk, or something like that, since I was like 13. So I was just like, man, like this is an opportunity I can't pass up, just because I obviously was aware that everybody in Dillinger was so far ahead of their peers in terms of talent. It was very obvious that like there was no limit to where they could go, if they wanted to. So I got in touch with Ben and emailed him some stuff, and one day, a couple weeks later, he called me back and said that they wanted me to come up like the very next day, and so I went up and we ran through some songs, and I went back up a week later and we ran through a few more, and at that point we had like 10 or 11 songs. Right. And he was just like, okay, we're playing a show in 2 weeks, you're in. So, and then from that point on, it was just, it was so fast that I didn't really even have time to sit down and think about it until maybe like 2 years later, because from the time I was in until pretty much the time we stopped to write Miss Machine, like we were just on tour constantly. So it was really difficult to really process it.
Right, that sounds
but
like
now
a
it's
dream
been so
job.
long. I can still remember that very vividly, but that was in 2001, and it's hard for me to believe that, it's almost been 7 years,
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So are you planning on working with Error in the future?
Man, I would love to say yes to that. Every time I talk to the people that are involved, whenever I talk to Atticus, whenever I talk to Brett, we always want to do it. Like, no, everyone wants to do it, but the main thing is that Brett is insanely busy with Epitaph, and Atticus is pretty much just been swallowed up by Nine Inch Nails. So he spends all his time working with Trent, on new stuff. So of course, whenever he has like his best idea, he's probably going to use it for Nine Inch Nails. So I don't really, I wouldn't bet that anything would ever happen, but I would love for it to. If we ever have enough time and we all, can find time off in the same time period, which is pretty impossible. We'll get it done, but we'll see.
That'd be fantastic. Let me refer to one of your influences, Metallica and the album Injustice for All.
Right.
And you have the track 82588, right, on the new album. How significant is Metallica for your musical influence and background?
Well, I mean, it was pretty major, pretty important, man. When I was a kid, I was pretty far ahead of the game. Like I was listening to pretty cool stuff at a young age. Like when I was like 7 years old, I was listening to Guns N' Roses and and things like that. But it was always more like rock and roll based. Like Guns N' Roses is pretty much just a direct continuation of like Aerosmith and the Stones and stuff. So I was more on like the rock and roll level, and I didn't really like get into any kind of metal until I saw the video for One, which pretty much just blew my mind. I mean, when you're like 9 years old and you see that video, it's like the scariest thing you've ever seen in your life,
Yeah, it's a classic.
So I was, totally intrigued by it, and I ended up, getting that tape, and I just wore it out, man. Like, I mean, within like 2 weeks, there wasn't even any writing left on the tape. It was just a black tape. You couldn't even tell which side was which, and that's around the age I started playing guitar, and I remember I went out and got like the tablature book for for that album, and I would just seriously every day would just sit there and, you know, try to, you know, learn those songs in that record, and that ended up getting me into, you know, things like Slayer and Anthrax, and that went into like punk and like death metal and grindcore, wherever else you want to go. But that was definitely like Metallica. That album for me was like the door from just like, you know, regular rock into like these other things. I definitely would not have, you know, started playing guitar if it wasn't for that record. And if I never started playing guitar, I would have never started singing.
Right.
So I can definitely, like, as ridiculous as it may sound to some people, I definitely like credit that record with like a lot for me personally. You know, whether or not it's like, you know, the best Metallica record ever, you know, it's not really, that's not the reason why it's important to me, you know.
Right, it's just changed your view on music as well, as you said.
Totally did.
must have a very, very special lifestyle to keep your vocals, because you scream like crazy.
Right.
Maybe
Yeah,
you
it's tough,
can
man.
maybe you can elaborate on what do you do in order to keep your voice.
Well, I mean, a couple years ago, or not, maybe like 5 or 6 years ago, like I started to, you know, we were touring so much, and I started to realize that my voice was starting to suffer as a result. So like, I went through like every possible, like everything people tell you to do, whether it's like, you know, drinking tea or, you know, having, they make these little lozenges for singers that, you know, that you can buy at like health food stores. Like I was trying like everything to, you know, keep my voice, and really mainly after everything, I've pretty much learned that there's only a few things that matter, and it's drinking enough water, like making sure you're hydrated, because you know, you can pretty much tell as soon as you're even the slightest bit like dehydrated, you can tell your voice sounds totally different.
Mm-hmm.
Getting enough sleep is a big deal, because you know, every night when you play, regardless of how safe you are, you still damage your voice. Like there's no way that screaming is ever going to be good for you.
Yeah.
So like getting enough sleep, you know, helps you to recover, and then like warming up a little is definitely, you know, good. The first, you know, you don't want to start screaming when you haven't really, if your vocal cords are, you know, are tight. Just like you wouldn't want to, you know, get on a track and start sprinting right away if you hadn't at least walked around or jogged around a little bit first. So, you know, those two things are important. But you know, there's only been a couple times where I really lost my voice and was, you know, scared about it. I lost my voice once in Japan and couldn't even speak, and that really freaked me out. And then I lost my voice at the very last show of a U.S. tour, and then I came home, and like a month later, I still couldn't really, you know, sing or scream or anything like that. So I you know, freaked out, because I've heard, you know, had friends who have had like surgery. You know, the guy from the Bronx, Matt from the Bronx, had vocal cord surgery. Davey from AFI, you know, had vocal cord surgery. So you know, I definitely was aware that was probably a bigger risk for me, since 80% of what I'm doing is screaming. I went to the doctor, and they put like a little miniature video camera down my nose, and you know, videotaped my throat, and you know, they said that I was okay. It was just irritated. And it went away. But it's hard to keep yourself in shape on tour, man, because you know,
you don't get much time to rest.
When you get done playing, you know, you're already pretty beat up, and then a lot of times people want to go out, so you end up going to some bar that's super loud, and then you don't realize that you're basically yelling there too, because you can't talk to a normal volume, so you're sitting there yelling at everyone around you. So I mean, there's always it's a lot of strain on your voice. So I mean, hopefully, you know, I can keep myself together for the next year and a half or so.
Yeah. Besides your voice, you need to take care of your of the rest of your body. We spoke to Liam earlier about
your performance at the Virgin Megastore.
Yeah.
Infamous performance. Yeah.
Where you step on people's heads. That's just fucked up.
Funny. That's so funny. Like at the time, I didn't think anything of that performance. It just goes to show you like how incredibly like how massive like the internet is, because that video, I mean, I didn't even realize anyone was filming, you know, and that video has become,
it's a legend.
That video has probably done more for us than any of the actual music videos that we spent money to make.
I bet. It's awesome.
Like that's like on YouTube. That video has been seen like 300,000 times or something like that, and like the videos that we actually spend money on are like a third.
Yeah.
But, you know, we definitely, you know, have to keep ourselves in shape. I mean, when we're off tour, like I'm a pretty healthy person. Like I don't really, you know, drink a lot or do, you know, very many drugs and
do mushrooms like Liam.
Yeah, right. He told you about that, huh?
Yeah. Well, he's a vegan, you know.
I eat healthy and work out a pretty decent amount. I run, and you know, I feel, you know, like I'm, you know, you can't just go on tour and do this to yourself and think that you can just be careless about it.
Did you suffer any injuries? Any major injuries? Did you suffer any major injuries during the tours?
Yeah, I have, but it's unrelated to being in shape. You know, every injury that I've had has been from getting hit by a guitar, which you know you can't really do anything about. You know, I have had my teeth knocked out by playing guitar. I have some fake teeth in my mouth from getting hit, which is the most ridiculous thing ever. You know, like when you go to the dentist. I went to the dentist. They were like, "Oh, you know, you got in a fight?" And I was like, "No." They're like, "What do you play sport?" And I was like, "You know, I mean, not really." And they're like, "What happened?" I was like, "I got hit in the face with a guitar." You know, and they don't even understand how that's possible. They're just like, "How is that possible?" I'm just like, "Oh, I'm in a band," and they're just like, "Well, what do you mean?" I still don't understand how the guitar hit your face. I'm just like, It's not worth trying to explain.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, I've got, you know, little scars all over probably my head, and you know, my random place on my face from pen. But you know, he's got we're pretty good usually at missing one another. You know, there's been some close calls where I could feel like the wind, you know, off the end of his guitar. But there's other times where you just can't do anything about it. And, you know, even if he only barely hit me because the end of his guitar is sharp, like I'm almost positive that I was cut, you know. So even if I feel like just a little tap on my head when I reach up, it's bleeding almost every time, you know. So I recently shaved my head, and just because over the summer I shaved my head, it got really hot, and I shaved my head, and I realized that I have little scars all over the place. So I had to come grow my hair back out.
Well, it's worth it.
Yeah, it's definitely.
No, it is, man.
Yeah.
You know, we wouldn't perform any other way. You know, it's something that I feel like is possible for us to do. You know, even when I don't feel like playing, like there's sometimes like 5 minutes before we go on stage, and I'm tired and you know I'm yawning, and me and Ben are beat up, feeling from like being on tour, and we're just like, I need a day off. Like I don't feel like playing, and then like second we start playing, you know, that's the only thing we know. That's like the only like playing music like makes us perform like that. If I'm listening to it, like if I'm home and I'm listening to the CD, like I can feel like my body like start to like become like
build up for the
kind
performance.
It's juiced up, like it wants to play. You know what I mean? It's like become a condition to play like that. So there's really no other way to do it.
We wanted to ask you if you have any interesting touring stories that you would be willing to share with us, be it something weird or awkward or romantic or obviously funny of any chance, even relating to bands that you were touring with. Anything that you might recall?
Oh man, let me. There's so many. Like it's like when you're on tour, like it just becomes like a series of after a while, like because it's not really that exciting. You know what I mean? You play a show and then you end up waiting around. So like pretty much every day becomes like a series of trying to get to either hilarious or you know debaucherous situations. You know, so I mean there's so many. I mean I could. You know, if you want to hear like a dramatic story, I could tell you about, you know, Ben quit the band last year. That was pretty, you know, huge deal. Like, yeah, a lot of people don't know that. He, well, we in middle of 2006, you know, we played a few shows without him, and we said that it was for personal reasons that he had to go home, and actually it was because he quit and flew home.
Wow.
So that was when everything really like started to come to a head with him and Chris. So I don't even think I've told any other magazine or anybody, radio or anything like this before. So it's not a big secret anymore. You know, it's like, but yeah, you know, him and Chris got in a huge fight like after one of the shows, and you know, Ben just was like, I can't do this anymore. Like I'm going home. So he flew home. We only had 3 shows left of the tour, so we finished the tour with as a 4-piece without Ben, and then we got him, you know, talked everything over, and obviously he came back. But that was like kind of like, you know, him and Chris had already had like, you know, personality problems throughout the years, but that was when like the road really started to split, you know, and it became like irrecoverable. But you know, in hindsight, you know, everything happens for a reason, and a lot of the problems that, that caused and the struggle that we went through with Chris pretty much came to define like the writing of this album. And now we feel so much stronger than we ever have, especially me, Ben, and Liam, because we had to,
overcome,
save this thing and fight for it and get stronger as individuals.
Yeah.
So
I think
the vibe is so much more positive now than it was. And, I don't have anything against Chris. He's happy with Coheed and Cambria, and we're happy, with Gil. So if that's what needed to happen, that's what needed to happen. And no one wants to be in a band with someone all the time and on tour all the time if they're not getting along.
Of course. Well, the new album sounds fantastic.
Yeah, it's your best album yet, the new album.
Yeah, we love it.
Thank you, man. I mean, we really all think so. I know it's hard. Everyone thinks that, like, their newest thing is the best thing, but this was the first time that we finished writing and really thought that, this was it. Like, that was exactly what we wanted to do. Like, there's nothing we would change. There's no vocals that I would change. The production sounds good. Like, on Miss Machine, the day we finished, there were things that I wish I could have gone back and redone.
Really?
I can't have a hard time listening to that record because there's so many things that I wish we could have done differently. And I realized that, like, almost right away, like, as soon as we finished. But with this record, like, I can listen from front to back, and there's nothing about it that I regret. There's nothing that I wish we would have, elaborated on. So, it seems so far like people are, are getting it. And, there's always going to be, like, people that, don't want you to, change or progress. Right. They want you to just write, like, Calculating Infinity over and over and over again.
Because they're used to it.
Yeah, right. You can't. That album came out 8 years ago, man. You know what I mean? We still write brutal songs. We still have, like, plenty of songs on the record that are aggressive and fast and chaotic. But, we like, we have other emotions as people, too. We have, like,
it's really
other
varied.
things to offer musically. So we don't want to, be forced to sit around and just do that all the time,
Right. It's really varied, especially this one track, Milk Lizard, which we talked about before, is just, amazing. The way you've combined so many horns, I think, for the first time, right? And
yeah, man, this is the first time we've ever actually had, like, real orchestration on a record, not just, like, keyboard or something, like
right.
We actually had, like, people come in and play, like, horns and, violins and little bells, and, it was pretty interesting
it's amazing.
to be able to do that.
Okay. Well, we're really looking forward to having you perform live in Israel sometime in the future. Sooner the better.
Where are you? Are you in Tel Aviv?
We're broadcasting from Jerusalem, but Tel Aviv
Okay.
is only like 40 minutes away, so it's not.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, I would love to go. You know, we're definitely, you know, planning on going. You know, Ben has been there personally
Mm-hmm.
before, but you know, none of the rest of us have ever been. And you know, everyone over here, like, you know, is pretty aware that, you know, that Israel is very modern. You know, Tel Aviv is like, you know, particularly modern, and
Right.
we get messages all the time on MySpace from kids like, you know, you have to come to Israel, you have to come to Israel.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm pretty sure that it's going to be a blast when we come. Yeah.
Excellent.
Fantastic. Well, thanks a lot, Greg, for the interview. We're grateful for this wonderful record, and we're looking forward to seeing you live in the future.
Oh, thank you very much. Thanks for having me on.
Sure. Thanks a lot, and have a terrific weekend.
All right, you too. Take care.
Bye.
Thanks, ביי. 106 FM, אתם על ג'קל והייד עם אורן ועודד. ראיינו עכשיו את גרג, סולן להקת דילינג'ר אסקייפלן. עכשיו נעבור לרעיון האחרון, שהוא עם בן, הפאונדינג ממבר היחיד שנשאר בלהקה מ-97, והגיטריסט המעולה. בואו נשמע מה יש לו להגיד.
So we're with Ben from Dillinger Escape Plan. He's the longest remaining member of this group.
The heart and soul.
Right. We'd like to start off by asking you about obviously the newest record, Ire Works. How did the writing process work for this album?
It was pretty similar to everything we've done in the past. I usually starts out a little bit premeditated. We have some ideas. I'll have some ideas either, you know, on a guitar, or I'll actually, you know, program some drums and some rhythms and ideas like that, and then present them to the rest of the band, and then we'll start working on them. And then, you know, the rest of it is just improv, you know, and as far as the writing process goes, a lot of times we'll come in with some kind of idea or whatever that might be more clever and thought out, and then, you know, we'll just see where that takes us next. And then after we get kind of a skeleton of a song, it's easier to like sit back and be like, okay, what does this need? You know, we do a lot of pre-production, and I did a lot of demos of the record, so we go into the studio pretty prepared.
Okay.
And you know, so yeah, we pretty much know what we want right from the start, and we go in, and like I said, we have demos and pre-production, and often a lot of that stuff ends up actually on the record. So
Yeah.
Oh, the original recordings from the demos.
yeah, not the entire recordings, but like, you know,
Right,
elements
the
of it.
parts. Okay. We understand it was just a little bit different, though, right? Because of
Chris' departure.
of Chris's departure and Gil Sharon's
Yeah.
recruitment, right?
Definitely. Yeah, it was interesting because, you know, working with a new drummer for the first time in this band was certainly a different experience. I mean, we approached things very similarly, but there was certain things that we both had to get used to. Gil had to kind of fit himself into our style, and then we had to adjust ourselves a little bit to his style. So it was interesting, and I think it made for an interesting record.
Right. And how did you choose Gil Sharon, who is obviously a fantastic drummer? How did you find him?
Well, it was a friend of ours who was actually knew both Chris, our old drummer, and Gil, and then also as the drummer himself, suggested Gil and said, you know, he knows what this band needs, and you know, he's known the band for a really long time, and he knows that Gil would be the right guy for the job, and that he's really great, and he could do it, and so we took that suggestion pretty seriously based on his experience with us and with our old drummer and with Gil. So he started sending Gil demos, and most of which were programmed drums that I programmed, and then he started learning the songs and then adding his own bits to them, and then that was it. We actually didn't even play with him. I never even heard him play until about 3 days before we started recording.
Really?
So we just practiced with him about 3 days before we recorded, and he had been working on the songs on his own for about a month and a half, 2 months, and that's how we did it. And we were lucky enough to for him to work out so well.
Okay, and the product is obviously amazing. Ironworks is we believe it's your best album. It's our favorite album.
Oh, thank you.
It's fantastic. I'd like to ask you a little bit about your. I understand you have a project with Zach Hill as well, a sort of collaboration.
I'm sorry.
Are you? I understand that.
Zach Hill, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty laid back. I mean, he's pretty much we toured with his band Hill in the past, and basically like he kind of gives me already like drum beats, and then I work on them and create songs around them. And so there's a couple things I'm working on, and you know, I've gotten a really good response from it, so I'll probably continue to work on it. But I hadn't really put that much time into it until now, and I probably will try to do a lot more of it.
Are you planning on releasing an album together, or is this?
You know, I'm not sure if it's something that may make it onto one of my, you know, maybe like a solo record of mine, or if we'll do you know, just the two of us will work on something, or it's not really, not sure yet, you know.
And you've also been involved in production of all the Dillinger Escape Plan albums, right?
Yeah.
Do you ever consider producing other bands?
I have a little bit, but it's not something I usually don't really have that much time to do it, because I'm just, I'm handling all the business for Dillinger and, most of the creative side of things as well. So, I really don't really have all that much time. We tour a lot, and, during the time we've been off, we've been just working on our records, and it was obviously with all the member changes, it's a lot more difficult than maybe in the past. So I haven't had a whole lot of time, and now that we've got the record done, we're getting ready to go on tour for many, many months. So, I definitely would consider, I've talked to some bands in the past, and I have done a little bit with some friends' bands and things like that. And, so, I'm sure I will eventually start doing that again.
Do you have any preferences in a band that to tour with? Do you have any favorite bands that you especially like to tour with?
Excuse me.
That's all right.
Let's see. Favorite bands to tour with.
Or bands that you'd like to tour with.
Sorry, what did you say?
Or bands that you would like to tour with and haven't yet. Sure.
Man, there's so many. We're in the past. One of my favorite tours ever was we toured with Mr. Bungle many years ago, and that was a great experience for us. So we learned a lot on that tour. A band that's broken up, named Botch.
Right.
A band that we toured with many times, who was really great. We always had a good time with those guys.
How about Meshuggah? We see that you tour with them a lot.
We actually, we were supposed to do a tour with those guys in Europe, and they canceled the tour for their own reasons or whatever. But we definitely would love to tour with them. We've played some shows with them in the past, and it was always great. And a lot of kids seem to really like the idea of us touring together. So that would be a good one to do. We'd really like. Hopefully, that would work out.
Okay.
Let's just
How about influences? Do you have any bands you respect or wish to mention on the show?
Bands who got you into music, in general as a kid, or bands that right now are influencing you?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been just a big fan of any band that's like really just the best at what they do. It's usually not genre specific. I mean, I listen to anything from, like to like old fusion bands from the '70s, like Mahavishnu Orchestra, or any of the like Robert Fripp and all this other stuff. And but at the same time, also, I mean, I love just things like Soundgarden and like
which you covered as well, right?
Yeah, and then I've always been a big Radiohead fan, and I love like Fiona Apple and things like that, or I'll just listen to like a jazz piano player like Vince Guaraldi or something like that doing Christmas songs or something, So it's just really wide range. Yeah,
your cover song really suggests that you are very. Your taste is very varied.
It's varied, yeah. Come to Daddy, Wish, Angel, Like I Love You, and the fantastic cover for Honey Bucket,
Yeah.
Melvin.
Yeah.
Was Melvins a big influence on you as well?
Who?
Melvins. Were the Melvins a big influence on you as well?
Yeah, they're totally a big influence. But Melvins are one of those bands that we try to almost know ourselves after. They've always been like a career band. They've been doing it forever. They still maintain to be creative and push themselves, and like they're still touring for many, many years later. And it's funny because that band influenced so many bands that are so big, but a lot of those bands have come and gone, and they're still at it, So.
Yeah, and they also, like you, have a lot of former members.
Yeah.
Melvins were actually touring in Israel a few months ago, and we were.
Oh, really?
With Men of Porn and Big Business, obviously.
Yeah.
Cool.
We were wondering if you guys consider coming tour in Israel as well. We understand you've visited Israel in the past, right?
I have been to Israel, and actually our drummer Gil Sharon's family's from Israel.
Oh, really?
So Yeah, so I mean, yeah, we're definitely going to try to get there on this tour, on this record cycle for this record. It's somewhere we've always wanted to go and play, and we seem to be getting a good response from the kids over there. So
Yeah,
I think it's time for us to head over.
There's a great crowd for you. It's
Yeah.
waiting here.
Yeah, we'd love to get there, and like I said, we're getting a lot of a great response from the kids over there, and like a lot of people seem to be interested. So we'd love to do it.
I'd like to refer again to, you talked about Mr. Bungle and touring Mr. Bungle, which is probably the time that you met Mike Patton for the first time.
It is, yeah.
You've also obviously released Irony is a Dead Scene, which is obviously, I think, broadened your audience and is a fantastic EP. How did the writing process go on to work for this specific album, your collaboration with Mike Patton?
That was interesting. Like, we pretty much wrote almost all the music and recorded a lot of it, and then sent it to Mike, and he, in his home studio, worked on like demoing vocals on top, and then he sent it back to us just so we could check it out. And then he actually flew to New Jersey, where the band was from, and we went in the studio, and we further continued recording like a few of the a little more of the music, and then he did all the vocals. Yeah, first he sent just demo versions of the vocals, and most of them didn't have lyrics. It was just kind of beep bop boo bops and stuff like that. But then he flew out to New Jersey, where the band was from originally, and we went to the studio and actually tracked the vocals with him and finished some of the music. So that was cool. Really great to be a part of that process, and it was cool.
Right. That's obviously fantastic. We're fans of Mike Patton, who's also visited here a few months ago with Finesse. you collaborated again with Dimitri Minikakis, right, on this album, and Mastodon singer.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
How was this collaboration? Really, did these two singers work on the songs with you beforehand, or did they join after the songs were finished?
Both circumstances were really last minute and unplanned. Like Brent was, we've been friends with Brent and Mastodon guys for a long time, and we were talking on the phone with him, and he mentioned that he'd be into working on doing something on the record, and so we said, yeah, come on out, let's do it. We were pretty much just like at this point so happy that we got through the record with all the obstacles that we were facing that it was almost just this triumphant, like, happy time for us just to be like get through this record, and we were almost done, and Brent flew out to California and just knocked on the door and said, I'm ready, and we're like, wow, we didn't know you're serious, but so he came in and him and Greg literally like pretty much wrote all those vocal lines for that part like an hour before they recorded it.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really unplanned and ended up working out great. And then Dimitri was similar. He's still one of my best friends, so he came over to my house and we talked about him singing on it, and that was really cool because he leads such a different lifestyle than we do now. He's married and he has a kid and he works and has pretty much the quote unquote normal typical lifestyle.
Yeah.
And so to see him get in front of the mic and really scream his ass off again and just get back in that position was really cool. It was definitely really great to see that.
You guys try to maintain a good relationship with all your former members?
Yeah, I mean, aside from our ex-drummer Chris, who just kind of left, flew the coop.
Yeah.
We're pretty much all best friends. Everybody who's ever been involved with Dillinger. I mean, even people who've just been on the road with us. And it's like one big extended family.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, we'd like to thank you for this interview, Ben, and we're
Look forward to seeing you guys out there.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to seeing you in Israel in the future. And
Great.
Again, fantastic album, and thanks a lot for for taking the time, and that's it.
Yeah, thank
Have
you
a
very much.
wonderful weekend.
Thank you.
ביי ביי.
ביי ביי. 106 FM, זו הייתה תוכנית מיוחדת של ג'קל והייד על דילינג'ר אסקייפלן. תודה לאורן ותודה לי ותודה לכולכם שהאזנתם, ותהיו איתנו שבוע הבא עם עוד הפתעות. יאללה ביי.